Hey everyone, it's Joel. Now I've been giving episode previews for the episodes that came before this one, primarily because they were older, so they were done, if not during COVID, a little bit before. But you know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep doing it to give things some context. So, whatever. Anyway, this interview that's about to happen, or well, it already happened, but it's about to play, is with one of my friends and previous coworkers, Jake Roundy. We used to work together at a company that did content marketing, and this is when I'm starting to get my stuff together in this interview. DC in a new house, got the equipment that I needed, and I actually recorded this in a tiny closet to get the best sound. So it was really painful. I actually did this among other interviews all in like one batch, and just kind of cramped into a little tiny closet, surrounded myself with blankets, like I was recording an album. So it does sound super crispy, if I may say so myself. But it's really cool. Jake is a good friend of mine. He's a freelancer, and this is just a nice, calm, chilling, or chill, not chilling, chill interview. And I think you'll enjoy it. Even if you don't like the content, I think it's going to sound very NPR-ish based on the quality of our microphones alone. So that should be worth something. So anyway, thanks again. It's Joel recording from a closet. I hope you like it. Thanks for tuning in.
I don't moonlight as a rapper. My jersey up too high in the rafters. I got a front team, new life and a tractor. Still sipping that moonshine and a plastered.
All right, everyone, we're back with a new episode for the Moonlighters Club 2021. I have done an interview in 2021 already. It was I didn't know it was an interview. Actually, I got hooked up with one of my friend's dads, who is a moonlighter, an entrepreneur. I thought we were meeting just to casually talk, and then like halfway through the conversation, he goes, "All right, so you ready to go?" And I go, "Wait, what?" So I just started recording. That was the episode number one. But this is the second episode for 2021 in a weird, almost post-COVID world, where I feel like we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And for entrepreneurs or anyone who works a job, I feel like if you made it through 2020, you realize I should probably be like doing something else. Like I feel like no matter what you were doing, unless you were a politician, you were
Yeah.
probably like, I got to do something else because this was
Yep.
insane. So that's what this year's all about, man. We've been doing Moonlighters for a few years now, and I feel like last year taught me that like just having the freedom to follow my heart to do what I really want to do. It was just like it's just so in my face I can't even get out of it. So this episode, we have a good friend of mine. Do you prefer Jacob or Jake?
Jake is fine. I think it sounds more natural.
Thanks, Jake. Everyone, we have a friend of mine, Jake Roundy. We worked together in the past, so we have plenty to talk about there. But Jake, welcome to the show. How's everything going?
Thank you, Joel. It's a pleasure to be here. Things are going well, and I guess I should preface this by saying I technically am not a moonlighter anymore, as I freelance full time now. But I did moonlight for a long time, just doing what I love, which is writing. So just to put that out there before we start.
Yeah, I appreciate that because that's where I'm trying to go, man. And we'll talk about that transition because I remember you saying that, and I was like, damn, like I gotta figure this out. So definitely, Jake. So we met working in Boston. Are you from Boston area?
No, I'm actually from Syracuse, New York, and I came here for college. I went to Emerson College, and I really just wanted to. After high school, I was like, I just want to get out of the state. I don't care where it is. And so Emerson was like the perfect fit for me, and I have stayed ever since.
Nice. I wonder if there's anyone who doesn't feel like that. Like, no matter if you're from a big city or a small city, like when I was growing up in Boston, I'm like, I hate it here. When I left and came back, I'm like, it's not as bad, but like, I feel like everyone
Yeah.
gets that yearning, especially to get out. So, okay, cool. Syracuse, I've never been. I've heard many interesting things about many towns in upstate New York. Boston, we got a ton of upstaters in Boston though, because of schools.
Yeah.
Ton.
Weirdly.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, a lot. So Emerson, did you ever switch majors at Emerson, or you went right into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I think, I've been kind of lucky because from like a very young age, I knew what I wanted to do with my career and my life essentially, which was write. So like when I was a kid, I remember I used to write these short stories about my younger brother, me, and my two cousins. And so I would just like get with them, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, I wrote this like little short story about us going on adventures and like solving mysteries, like very Scooby Doo style." Um, and
Nice.
I knew like from that age, like that's what I wanted to do with my life. So in high school, I focused on writing. I tried to ace all my English classes. I took as many creative writing courses as I could. And so when I went to or was considering colleges, I knew I wanted to go to a school that focused on writing. And actually, ironically, Syracuse University has a really good writing program. But I just wanted to get out of the city and do something different because I felt like I needed to broaden my horizons a little bit. And Syracuse is a very small city. So I was like, I need to get out. And so Emerson, at the time, I was also really into film. So when I went to Emerson, they're like half film school, half writing school. And I was like, this is the perfect combination.
Mm.
So I go and I actually signed up to be my major to be something like TV, film, and writing. Um, and they actually put me in the wrong major when I started. So they stuck me in writing, literature, and publishing, which was much more focused on nonfiction and creative writing for like novels and that sort of thing. Uh, and it actually ended up being a good thing that happened because I took my first film writing course there and I just like hated every second of it. And I was like, all right, this is not for me. Um, and I actually ended up
Yeah.
liking the other side of things. I was like, all right, I want to like write books. That's what I want to do. Um, so it actually ended up being like a blessing in disguise. And it really helped me kind of like realize what I wanted to focus on. And so that's essentially what I did throughout my entire college career was just really focus on the writing. I tried to take as many different writing courses as I could to kind of, try out different styles, see what I liked. I did like poetry, which I hated. I did short story fiction writing. I did some nonfiction stuff. And it really kind of made me experience all the different types of writing out there. And I knew just from talking to my teachers there how hard it would be to write a book and get it published. And so I was like, all right, as a
Yeah.
backup plan, I'm not just going to go out of school and just write my first book and get it published. Like it does happen to people. And there are people who, rocket to stardom with their first novel, but that is like such a rare occurrence that I was like, I need a backup plan. And so I really decided I wanted just to be a part of the world of writing. I didn't care in what capacity. So I took some editing courses. I took some publishing courses that taught me, all the different ways a book goes from a writer sitting down and writing their first word to, full publication and a mass market paperback landing in your hands. So I just was like, all right, I'm going to get as many skills as I can before I leave college, and then we'll see where that takes me. And as long as I'm in that world of writing, I'll be happy. It doesn't matter what capacity it is. So really, that was like my college goal, and it ended up working out pretty well, I think, because I mean, here I am now, and I'm writing full time. It may not be writing books full time, but I'm still doing what I've always wanted to do, which I think is pretty cool.
Nice. So you get out of school and you're wide eyed. You're ready to take the world by storm.
Yep.
And especially it's creative too, because I feel like that's the tough. It's tough having creative skills, especially
Mhm.
when there's money involved, because money ruins all forms of creativity. I
Yep.
deeply feel in my heart as someone who wants to make money doing something
Yeah.
creative. uh, so you get out, you get into what was that like in the workspace? Was it a wall you hit and you're like, this kind of sucks, like, or
Man.
did you have a plan? Did you know, oh, okay, I'll work here. Maybe these jobs that I get initially aren't going to be that good, but I know that I'm going to be in 5 years X at this company, so it's fine? Or were you just disillusioned?
Yeah, so the thing is, if you want to be in the publishing world, there's like two places you can do that. One of them is New York City and the other is Boston. So
I
I was
didn't know
like,
Boston was there.
yeah, so I was like, this is actually the perfect place to be. And I was like, if I'm going to make a go at this, this is, where I'm going to try first. And so my first job was actually working at Pearson Education, which is like a textbook company. They make
Mm.
pretty much any textbook that you have in school, they've created. So they have like a really great partnership with Emerson because they know a lot of the kids come out of that and they have good editing skills right off the bat. So I was actually lucky enough to get a contract position there, and I was working on, it was like custom textbooks. So they would take like pieces of different textbooks and put them together and make a brand new one. And so it was a lot of very finely detailed editing work. So it was really just like literally I would just sit there and for 8 hours a day, I would just read like 400-page textbooks of like the most dry, dense content you could imagine. But I think that it helped in a lot of ways to like, understand, what my role was. It helped me kind of hone those skills. And I kind of got to see, even though I wasn't really a part of a lot of the publishing process, I got to experience that and meet with other people in that industry. So it was actually a really good like stepping stone into the working world, which I think was really helpful and lucky, to be honest. And it was a contract position too. So it was sort of like, it allowed me to like dip my toes into it, see if I liked it. And then when my time was up, I was like, all right, what's next? How can I, keep this momentum up?
Nice.
So yeah.
So do you remember to where you are now, to when you got out of school, do you remember how many jobs in editing you've had? How many companies you worked for?
Yeah. So it honestly hasn't been that many. So I worked there, and then the next company I went to, I only worked there for like half a year, I think, and it was working on editing like video manuscripts. So it was a little different, but it was still technical work. It was medical and science videos, like short how-to videos. And that company started to go under after my 6 months there, and I was laid off, which was a really kind of devastating for me because I had, at that point, I was starting to make some good coworkers who were around the same age as me. And we were like really close. And then all of a sudden it was just sort of like the rug was ripped out from underneath me. And I was like, oh crap, now I have to find something new to do. And luckily that's when I went to a content marketing company. Like 2 weeks later, had an opening, and I got in there, and then I spent 5 years there kind of working my way up. So it was actually kind of a quick progression from getting out of school, quick temp job, quick layoff at my next job, and then landing somewhere where it was more of a long-term opportunity. And then, yeah, so I guess, so when I was there, I started as a little above an entry-level position editing. Again, this was really like an opportunity to just kind of work on a bunch of different content. So for a bunch of different clients in different industries, and it was more marketing style content. So it wasn't that dense textbook copy, and it wasn't video scripts, which are fairly short. And that also kind of, I spent a lot of time there just really honing my editing skills. That's all I would do, was come in, edit, 5, 6, 7, 8 articles every day and leave. And I think that was really necessary. It was sort of like I was building my foundational skill set. And by the time I left there, my last role was as an associate director. And with every promotion I got, I was moving further and further away from what I enjoyed doing, which was writing and editing. And I was challenged in a lot of ways because that job was focused on people management and client management. And it was like, if I ever touched a piece of content, it was like just reading it and giving feedback to someone. It wasn't like I was in the weeds really working on, sentence structure and putting things together. And that's what I really enjoy. So after a year of doing that, I decided, you know what, I want to kind of get back to what I love doing most. And I tried to start my own business freelancing. And it just so happened to coincide with the global pandemic last exactly almost a year ago is when I turned in my notice. And before my last day, it was like 3 days before my last day, our company went fully remote. And I had like a Zoom goodbye call. And then I was just like on my own, like completely isolated because everybody's stuck in their houses. And I'm like, all right, time to make a business from my second bedroom. So it was a very weird experience, but luckily it's been going fairly well. So I've been doing that for about a year now. And I have the momentum to keep going, which, I was, flashback to a year from today, I was like, I don't know how long I can do this with like the state of the world. I don't know if people will be hiring freelancers. I don't know if people will be hiring, period. And I was like, I'm going to give myself 3 months to try this and we'll see where we're at. And luckily it's been good. I've just built up momentum over the last year and it's going well.
Nice. Congrats, man. Let's you made a great point when you were talking about moving away and you were getting promoted. That was taking you away from what you want to do. And that's what people don't, that's what I hate most about corporate America is that
Yep.
so much of the work isn't work. Like I just like, what do you dislike the most when you got promoted, like when you're associate director, the day-to-day stuff that you hate the most? For example, I hate Zoom calls so much that
does anybody like Zoom calls?
I'm in the point now where I will throw my router out a window just to not have, like, I hate meetings. I don't think anyone should have more than 3 hours of meetings in a day. Even that is a lot.
Yep.
Like it's just not work. So do you remember what do you hate the most about the day to day? What specific things that you had to do where you're like, this is just not even worth my time?
I mean, honestly, it was meetings. So like as someone who likes to write, like, I write to like even process like my own emotions. Like I'm just not like a good like verbal communicator. Like I can do it and I can do it well, I think in certain scenarios, but it takes like a lot of mental energy for me to do that. Because I'm just an introvert. That's just the way I am. So for me to like come into work every day and my job being from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. was literally like meetings. So I'd get there, I'd answer like 10 minutes worth of emails, and then my first meeting would start. And I would go and I would get like 30 minutes to sit at my desk for lunch to just peacefully drown out the world before I went into more meetings. And by the end of the day, I was just like so mentally drained, emotionally drained. I was like, I can't, like, it was just a lot for me to do. And it was just ruining, like, speaking of moonlighting, it's like I didn't have the energy to do anything else. I would get home, I would eat, and I would just sit on the couch and watch TV until it was time to restart and do it all over again. And then on the weekends, it was like I had to go do adult responsibilities like chores and groceries and all that stuff that we love to do. So it was like I just reached a point where I was like, you know what? I'm glad I tried this. And, I think there was a lot of rewarding things about it, but I just knew, like, for me, it wasn't going to be sustainable. And I knew I just wanted to kind of get back to what I'm doing now, which is as a freelancer, I'll maybe have like one meeting a week and that's it. So it's like I can kind of
Nice.
take my time off.
You're so lucky.
Yeah, I was like, that's like the dream to me, is like if I can just talk to people, very rarely, and they just kind of like let me do my thing, then I'll be happy. And that's the biggest change for me. And it's made me like a completely different person, like attitude wise. I have way more energy to do the things I actually want to do, like play video games or, write on the side or start like a video project or something. So really that was the biggest thing for me, was just all day meetings. And the only time people would call me into something is when there was a problem. So it was like if a client was angry, that's when I
Mm,
would get involved.
mm,
Or if, one of my team
mm.
members was having
Yeah,
a bad day,
that's
I
the
would
worst.
have to, yeah. So it was just very emotionally draining. And I'm glad there are people out there who have that, you know, those social skills. But for me, it's like, it takes me a lot of energy to do that. And I need to like recharge. And I just didn't have that time in that position. So
The company we were working at, were you were freelancing the whole time we were working there?
no, so it wasn't, I mean, for me, I believe that if you want to do something, especially like a creative skill, they say you have to do something for 10,000 hours to be a master of it. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I do think like you should practice doing what you want to do. And so, you know, I would just do things for fun. So it was like, I started a
Mm,
gaming blog where I would just be like, all right, this is a big passion of mine. I want to talk to people about my favorite games. And so really it was just a way for me to not only exercise that, but also practice my writing skills. So it's like, if I did want to go into freelancing one day, which I really knew I wanted to do eventually, that I should have something to show people. So it was like, even though, these aren't professional publications I'm writing for, these are still writing samples I can put into my portfolio and be like, hey, here's an example of my writing. You can take it for what it's worth. Like, this showcases what I can do. So really that was sort of what I did in my spare time, before and after work. I would just write up those articles, or I would do some creative writing on the side too. And it just kind of helped me uh, enjoy, what I enjoy doing most. Even if it wouldn't lead to anything, I was happy because I was doing
mm.
it. So really, that was, I did do some professional content on the side, but it wasn't a ton. It was mostly just for fun. But it did end up helping me build a portfolio to use later on.
Do you remember the day where you were like, I'm done? Was there were you kind
There
of
were,
getting there, or was there a day you're like, this is it?
there were several days. Let me just tell you that. Okay. It was like, I mean, I had reached the end of, I had considered it for so long. And I was just like, I
Mm,
didn't want to do it. There was always a reason why I had to stay and keep working. And I mean, it is a terrifying prospect to leave the security of a job you're good at and that pays well,
yeah.
and where people value you. Um, like, that's scary to leave behind and just be like, all right, I'm going to go off and try to build something on my own. And then ironically, I just did that in the worst possible time you could possibly do that, in the middle of a pandemic. So it was like, but I just knew at that point, I was like, I have to try this. Like, I'm not, I could stay here and work my way up, and there was a clear path for me forward, but it wasn't something I was enjoying. And I knew it would just continue to tax me heavily. So I was like, all right, here's the time. And really it was more of like, I think that it was like my New Year's resolution to do that. And there was a specific, I was asked to take a last minute trip to across the country to go and to a client conference and represent the company. And I
Mm,
mean, this was like right before the COVID outbreak happened too. And I remember people being like a little concerned about taking planes at the time, because we didn't really know, what was happening,
yeah.
how likely it was you were going to get infected. And I had to go do this trip. It was like a 3-day long trip, and I got like no sleep, and I had to take on this huge responsibility. And I was just like, all right, this is it. I was like, that was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back for me. And it was a fine trip, and it went well, but I was like, you know what, I think now's the time. And then, so I kind of planned everything out over the course of the following month. And then I turned in my notice at the beginning of March and left 2 weeks later. And I think it's also important, I took 2 weeks off to do nothing before I started actually freelancing, which was very helpful to kind of recharge.
That was my next question. Yeah, that was my next question is what happened right after? Because that's what I'm most scared of. I know that I need to go. I know, but I'm scared of that first week of not work. Am I just gonna lie around and like eat nachos? Like what was that like when you took that 2 weeks off?
That's exactly what I did. I literally, because I was just so burnt out at that point, that I just sat around and did. Actually, you know what? I made several lists of like movies that I had wanted to watch for the last few years. I just had never had time to watch. I had TV shows I wanted to blast through. I had books I wanted to read. And I think I read like 30 books in like the first 3 months that I was freelancing. And I watched like 15 movies and I watched a bunch of TV shows, and it was great. I just sat for 2 weeks straight. I was just like, I'm not going to do anything except feed myself and relax. And that's what I did. And then I was like, all right, at the beginning of April, I'll start trying to freelance. And it was great. I mean, it went by super fast, and I was like, wow, I wish I could do this all the time. But it was just what I needed. So I didn't feel guilty because, I mean, it was also during a really weird time in the world too. So it was sort of like I had the excuse of the pandemic to stay inside and go nowhere, which kind of made it a little easier for me to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's dangerous. I consider myself like pretty well self-disciplined. So like I knew like, all right, I need to stop this before it gets out of control. But if you're the type of person that has a hard time kind of drawing that line in the sand and being like, all right, now I have to go back to trying to work again, then that's a dangerous thing to do. But for me, it was like the perfect way to heal after being burnt out for so long, and then getting the motivation and the strength to kind of start building a business.
Nice. So let's talk about freelancing. What do you spend the majority of your days working on now?
So right now, I'm actually really lucky because I have a few long-term clients. So it makes it really easy for me to kind of break out my days. So I try to take the weekends off. That's my first kind of boundary that I've set for myself. And then I try to structure my days to adjust to my sleep schedule because I don't like to wake up early. So I usually start around 10 o'clock, and I kind of break up my tasks to do the easiest stuff first, just to kind of get me going, and then I have to kind of really focus on the rest of the stuff for the rest of the day. So really, right now it's mostly I do some content management stuff, which is really like uploading stuff, optimizing content for search, cleaning up copy, that sort of thing. It doesn't really take a ton of brain power to do that stuff, so I kind of start with that first, and then I move into writing. And I have a few different writing stuff. Some of it is writing articles and case studies and things like that. And then I do some other lighter work. Right now I'm working for a company that helps people with their resumes, cover letters, and that sort of thing. So it's pretty much, I do that for 6-7 hours a day in the week. And then I usually have enough time to take off on the weekends. But other than that, like I said, maybe once a week I'll have a call to discuss a new project or meet with a potential client. But right now I'm in a good spot where I have long-term clients, so there's not a whole lot of that I need to do, and I have regular work coming in, which is a blessing in the world of freelancing, where you have those months where you do, feast or famine, as they say. So it's like sometimes you have not enough work and you're kind of like, oh crap, what should I be doing? But right now I have enough to keep me busy, and it's stable enough that I don't have to, spend too much time looking for new work.
How do you get to that point of where work does start to come in regularly? Are there certain tips you can give, strategies?
Yeah, so really my first few assignments were purely from my network. Um, so LinkedIn was really where I got a lot of people reaching out to me. So I made a point of making an announcement on LinkedIn, like, hey, everybody, I am moving into freelancing. Here's what I can do for you. And I actually specialize in tech. So that was helpful for me. I feel like a lot of the problem that freelancers have is that they tend to label themselves as generalists who can do it all, which I think is fine, because I do a little bit of everything. But I think if you can focus on a niche, you're going to have a higher chance of success because people will be specifically searching for that type of work. So that's exactly what I did. I went on my LinkedIn. I was like, hey, everybody, here's what I'm doing. Here's how I can help you. And here's the particular subject matter that I have the most experience in. And luckily, just from that alone, I had some people reach out to me and be like, hey, I have some work that might be good for you. Are you interested? And some of that has continued. Some of it was shorter engagements. And I just kind of kept looking for work. And I'm trying to, I think there was a website. I think there's a website called We Work Remotely, which is a really good place to go if you're looking for really any type of work. They have specific categories for certain jobs, and they have full-time, part-time, and then contract positions. So I would just kind of go there every now and then and look for things. And I ended up, one of my long-term clients came from that. So that was a really good way for me to find things. And early on, when I didn't have a ton of work, I would spend at least one day every week looking for new opportunities, specifically looking for people who were interested in longer term freelance engagements. So that's really what I did. But I think the crux of that was really LinkedIn being my network of people that I had worked with over, from the start of my career and in textbooks to, content marketing, where I really built up a lot of people who knew what I could do, knew they could trust me, and reached out when they had stuff. So I was lucky in that case to have built up that network.
Nice. Yeah, networking is, and I know it's funny. You're an introverted person. You know me. I run my mouth all the time. So, being thanks for agreeing with me, Jake. But networking is it sucks, but it
does.
It is a thing. It's a thing. Knowing more people, it will just help you get more opportunities. So let's talk about Couch Bandits. I love Couch Bandits so much. What is it? Where the name come from?
Yeah, so Couch Bandits. So this is my gaming site. I started with two friends of mine who I like to consider our kindred spirits. They're two friends I have from high school, and they're both creatively minded as well. And so one of them, who's been my best friend for my entire life, he and I used to write creative projects all the time. So we've written movies that we filmed and starred in ourselves. We've written YouTube TV shows that were just purely for fun when we were in school. And so we actually both went to college together too. And he's a film guy. And so we just always were looking for ways to express our creativity and just have fun with it. And so when, while I was working, I really was like, I need an outlet to talk about my favorite games. I really think, I have enough chops to know how to build a website and, create content that will stick in search. And I am pretty certain that I can build an audience for this. And so we just decided, the three of us were like, all right, let's do this. And we were kind of looking for a name, and I don't remember where Couch Bandits came from necessarily, but the idea is that we missed the days of couch co-op gaming, like when we would all sit on the couch and play. We were really into GoldenEye back in the day, GoldenEye N64. And so we were just trying to revive that spirit of sitting on the couch and playing with your friends. So that's where the name really came from. And we sat down, and for like about a month, we just planned out a content schedule of articles we wanted to write, and we hired some artists to make our logo and set everything up, got all ready to go, and we had our launch, and we just tried to keep the momentum going, and we brought on more people that we knew, other friends who we knew wanted to talk about the games that they loved, or wanted to practice writing, or just wanted to have a sample that they could use for their own careers. And it was just a great way to kind of build a community that loved gaming the way we did. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, we still try to do it today. It's definitely not quite as active as it was. I mean, we started, it's been like 4 years now, I think, that it's been active. So it really just began as like a passion project, just a way for us to connect again and be creative together.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you guys to do that for the rest of time. It's for the listeners who probably don't know. When Jake and I worked together, there were a bunch of people we all still keep in touch with that worked at this company together, and we would play Smash Brothers on Wii U every day. And it used to be something we did for 30 minutes at lunch, and then it kind of just get longer and longer to like an hour plus. And then after we'd play, and it got pretty heated. And I remember it got culty where we created our own work group chat where we were just talking about video games, and we would make each other. We had to submit a top 10 favorite video game list to prove if people knew what they were talking about and could be in the room. What's your favorite video game of all time? I know this, but
So my favorite game, and this is really what inspired my creativity as a kid too, is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. So that, I mean, I used to write essentially like a lot of my first stories were like fan fiction for that game because I just loved it so much. And the graphics, I was just blown away by the graphics. And you look at them now and it's like, oh my God, why did I think this was so beautiful? But that's my favorite game of all time. I don't think anything will ever surpass it.
It's pretty crazy. I have my top 10 list here, and I hate it. It's and it's gonna change. My top 10 list here is number 10, Fight Night Round 4, Mike Tyson. Number 9, Red Dead Revolver, which people forget about.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Revolver was the one that started it all. It was fun. Number 8, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Classic.
Oh, nice.
7, Street Fighter 2. 6, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers on Nintendo. 5, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. 4, Batman Arkham Asylum, classic.
Yeah.
3, Manhunt, brutal, disturbing, but classic. Ocarina of Time was number 2 for me, and number 1 was number 1 was Super Mario World, because I mean that was Yoshi. Nice. You couldn't mess with it.
I'm pretty sure Super Mario World was on my list. I don't know if it was it might have been number 2 actually. So we may have swapped 1 and 2, which is interesting.
The one I have to fit in is Ghost of Tsushima, which if you have not played that game and you like video games, it is so the game is so amazing. I've just been watching samurai documentaries on Netflix for weeks now.
Oh,
I know
God,
so much about
amazing.
Japan's history. It's crazy. That game is gonna shoot straight to the top. It's insane. I've been playing it I've beaten it 3 times already. I can't stop playing
crazy.
It's insane.
It's so good though. I mean, it really is. It's amazing.
It's so beautiful. So
it might be one of the best PS4 games, I think, of all time.
It's just breathtaking. Ladies and gentlemen, it's breathtaking. Please play it if you get a chance. So with this freelancing going on, do you still want to write a book?
Yeah. So, I there's actually an author that I love. I'm a big fantasy guy. So his name is Brandon Sanderson, and he's written a ton of fantasy books. And he actually teaches creative writing courses. I think I don't remember what school, but he posts them online. And if you're into writing, I recommend watching those, because he had a way of framing things I thought was really helpful. So for the longest time, my goal has been to publish a book. But he was sort of like, if your goal is to publish a book, he's like, that may never happen. You might be doing it for the wrong reasons if you want just to publish a book. So his advice was, instead reframe it as, what do you actually want to do? Do you want to write a book, or do you want to make money off your writing? And so for me, I have this freelance career going that's based on my writing. So I'm like, all right, I have that going. Do I really want to force myself to write a book just to get it published and make money when, it's going to be a rare opportunity if that happens? So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on writing a book. So that's my first goal, is to finish a full length novel. And then, maybe then I can take it and kind of shop it around and see if someone will buy it. But if not, that's fine. That wasn't my goal. My goal was just to do this for myself, was just to write a book. So I'm still working on that. And I have written, and he also, one of his suggestions was, if that's something that you want to do, set out time to do it every week, sit down and write something every week. And so his advice was, just take 4 hours out of your week to do what you love the most. Which I think is actually really good advice, because 4 hours isn't that much. You could break it up into, 1 hour or 2 hours on a Saturday, 2 hours on a Sunday, or you could do a 4-hour block some night during the week and just write. And I found that really helpful, because the prospect of writing a book is so intimidating, because it's like, all right, I have to write 100,000 words. Where do I start? And I found that helpful, just because it breaks it down into very small steps, where it's like, all right, I just have to sit down for an hour. I'm just going to write whatever comes to my head. And that's what I've been doing this past year. And it's been really helpful, and I've made a lot of progress. So that's what I would say my main goal is, to finish a book. And then, we'll see. Maybe I'll try to get it published at that point. But I think my next goal will probably be write another book. And I think that's going to be fulfilling enough for me that I will be happy kind of living that dream, instead of being putting the financial pressure on myself to make a career out of being a novelist. Because then I won't be doing it because I enjoy it. That would be doing it for a paycheck. So that's my goal. And I hopefully, maybe a year from now, I'll have at least one book written that I can share with the world if they want to read it.
We will definitely want to read it. We'll definitely keep you to that timeline. You have 12 months to get this done.
Oh God, here we go. The pressure's on.
One last question. One last question. If you didn't have to, if everything worked well with freelancing and everything is going fine, would you ever work another corporate job again?
I think I would. I think, being a freelancer is great in a lot of ways, but I think there is something that's appealing about a stable income, being able to work somewhere where you can get health insurance and, everything you need sort of provided to you. You have a retirement fund set up. And there's a lot of stuff like that that's involved in freelancing. That's like, all right, there's no one else looking out for me with this stuff. I have to kind of navigate the insurance waters by myself. I have to make sure I follow up on unpaid invoices. I have to reach out to clients. And when I don't hear from them, I have to be the one responsible for reaching out to them. So I think there's a lot of responsibility that's wrapped up in it that you just don't have when you have a normal corporate job. And it's yeah, you do have responsibilities, but you don't have to be responsible for everything. Payroll is taken care of for you. And I think there is an appeal to that. And I also think there is, I think one of the things that's hurt a lot of people is this idea that you have to love what you do for work, which I don't think is necessarily the case. Sometimes work should just be work. And, if you clock in and you work for 7 hours and you go home and then you do what you really enjoy, that's totally fine. If that's what you want to live your life, you don't have to do what you love for work, because then that it will just become work to you, and you'll lose that love and that spark and passion for it. So I think there's a lot of people who kind of don't think that way, and we've kind of been brought to be like, all right, you have to work toward this dream of doing what you love for work, but there's nothing wrong with having a hobby. You don't have to monetize everything, So I think if there was a point in time when I wanted to go back to that stability, I would work a corporate job, and I would just make sure to clearly outline my own goals for myself. Like, do I want to turn this into a career? Is this just a job to pay the bills for a while? What do I really want to work toward in my life? And does my career have to be a part of that? So yeah, I think there's like some factors, but for now, I'm really interested in maintaining the momentum I have in my freelancing and keeping that going for as long as I can, because it's working for me in my life right now, and we'll see how long that lasts.
Well, Jake, I appreciate that. Sometimes work can just be work. I like that. I like that as a lasting thought. Do you have any projects or front-facing blogs or anything like that you'd want people to tune into or follow or anything of that nature that you want to promote?
Yeah, so I guess freelancing stuff, I have jacob.roundy.com, so you can kind of check in there. I also write some content marketing items on there. And couchbandits.com, obviously, if you want to follow along with video game stuff. And in another vein, I've started doing a project by the name of Janitor Roundballs. And it's a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel where I'm watching every single Nintendo Direct. So these are like presentations where Nintendo goes over their video game announcements that will be coming in the coming months. And they've been doing them for 10 years. And I thought it would be fun to go back, start at the very beginning and watch every single one and rank them in terms of what had the best announcements and the most exciting presentations. So yeah, you can follow me at Janitor Roundballs on Twitch or YouTube, and I'll be posting those videos as I watch them. And it's really just a fun, nostalgic walk back through Nintendo history, and a way to enjoy video games in another way. So that's my newest project. I just started doing that a week ago, actually. So yeah.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Janitor Roundballs, taking the world by storm. I love that. Jake, I want to thank you for your time. This was awesome, man. It was cool, and I'm great to see that you're out there doing freelancing, and I'm excited that you still have the book in sight. And so, anyone who's listening, good nugget, man. Work can just be work. We have more interviews coming. We'll make sure to, post this, rate and review, tell a friend about this. We love any kind of feedback you can give us on the Moonlighters Club podcast. You can find us on most podcast networks. If you're listening to this, you probably already understand that. But also we have a YouTube channel that we're going to start putting more content on, and a website, moonlightersclub.com, that we're just going to make sure to feature every single person that we interview. And I'm in the process of doing that myself. So, from Joel Edwards, Jake, thank you so much for doing this. And everyone who's
Joel.
anytime. And anyone who's listening, we will see you next time. Thank you.